but I truly believe things are going to get worse before they get better. And let me add this thought, Doug, because some of our listeners are probably saying tonight, is this guy crazy? Is he daft? I mean, we keep hearing from the financial media in America, and we watch CNN and CNBC, and we listen to the Treasury, and we listen to the Fed, and they tell us everything is wonderful. There's a recovery.
Yeah.
And this guy's daft. He's saying just exactly the opposite. And yes, I would say, yes, we are saying exactly the opposite, because the people who are saying that are the ones that told us there would be no recession. They said there was no dot-com bubble, and then it burst in March of 2000, and $8 trillion went down the tubes. And then they pumped trillions of dollars more into the system to make another bubble to try to push back the recession or the depression, and that was the real estate bubble. And they said, not to worry, there is no real estate bubble. Boom, the real estate bubble collapsed. They pushed trillions of dollars more into the system, this time to try to give us another stock market bubble. And they say there's no recession. Everything is fine. Oh, yeah, there was a little recession, but the recovery is right around the corner. These guys are either terminally stupid or they're not telling us the truth. And the sad thing is, most Americans, like most people around the world, are relying on their media, their financial media, which in America is wholly owned by Wall Street, so it's not objective. They're relying on their official pronouncements from the government, and so people are not getting good information. People think they're getting good information, and they're getting bum information. Before the program, I was talking to some people downstairs. I think you were one of them. Yeah. And I said, look, you want to understand how misinformed Americans are. In the last 10 years, the S&P composite, that's a big composite of stocks, a stock average, it dropped 23% in the United States. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, everybody knows what that is, that dropped 8.25% in 10 years. The NASDAQ dropped 44% in 10 years. Okay, these are big drops. Now, if you factor in inflation, it was much worse. Yeah. Okay, really, that was kind of painful. Gold went up, by the way, during that same time, over 400%. Now, 99% of the American people were in and stayed in the stock market because Wall Street and the media kept telling them, it's a great place to be. Just hang in there with us. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. And they're losing more and more, and they're oh, no, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And less than 1% of the American people bought gold because Wall Street, oh, no, it's a bad deal. Only idiots would buy gold as it was going up 400%. So the problem we have, and I hope it's not as true in England or in the UK, but in America and many parts of the world, people are not getting good information. They need to find good, hardcore sources of information, and it's usually not going to come from official establishment-type sources. So I would really say to anyone who is a listener today who is wondering, why is this daft guy telling us the opposite of what the mainline media is telling us, you need to find some maverick sources of information to help you kind of join the dots.
I mean, I think we should say here, I mean, your credentials, I think, speak for themselves, and people can accept or reject, but at least test out what you're saying. Now, you've got your own website, www.mcavaney.com. And we can give you that information. It'll be on the screen. But also ring the office. We will give you that information in the office as well. But you also said you would be happy to email out a composite of a couple of newsletters that you've put out recently. So if anybody want that, if folks email in and ask for that, we will be able to pass that on to them.
Yeah, I just did a two-part series on my January and February newsletters called Out of Control, the U.S. Financial System in Meltdown. And as a matter of fact, we spoke last week to a group of top businessmen down in Mexico City, and I gave them this material, and I'm sure that they will hate me the rest of their lives after they read it. But it really does go into a lot of detail as to what's happening, the mechanics of the breakdown in the system, and then more importantly, what do you do to get out of harm's way? And maybe before the program's over, we can talk. How do you get out of harm's way? How do you protect yourself? Yeah. So I would love to share that information with anybody that wants to get it. And so we'll manage to get it to them through you and through the emails and so forth.
Just email in, folks, and ask for that financial newsletter, and I'll make sure that you get hold of it. Because it is important that we have the right information, or at least we listen to both sides. As you say, people can accept or reject. They can call you a maverick if they want to, or they can look at your track record. But it does seem that the governments have their own agenda. They have what they want to do, what they feel is best for them. And maybe what is best for them isn't always what is best for the people.
Politicians and governments want to protect their own interests. They want to protect their own power position. And if you're a politician in America, you just want to keep getting reelected. So you give as much away to the people as you can. You tell them what they want to hear. Excuse me. You tell them good things. You tell them the economy is recovering. And by the way, go out and buy some more and borrow some more and buy and borrow and buy and borrow. That's how we got in trouble in the first place.
Yeah.
And so they try to kind of talk it up and psych people up and so forth. And our mission, if I've had a mission for the last 42 years, it's been to help people understand the times. To help people understand what they're not going to get from most normal type sources. And I think this is the problem with most people in my country, maybe at least some in your country, is we don't understand the times. We don't really understand what's going on behind the scenes. We're not getting the right information from all of our official sources. And I think this is especially important for God's people.
Yes.
Doug, I will tell you that in the last couple of years, we have seen millions of American Christians go bankrupt. They've lost most of their 401ks and their retirement portfolios because they haven't understood the times and because they've believed the wrong voices. They believe false voices, and they're going broke. And yet these are Christians. These are God's people, and I would have hoped they would have had more discernment, but unfortunately they're limited to the same official sources that everybody else is. So I think it's really important that we help people understand the times, and that's what you're doing with your program every week. Give me a break. You're trying to help people understand how the world is really functioning in relation to God's whole spiritual kingdom in the Bible.
Right. Just on that, it's just interesting that you're talking about people needing to know, and just share this is from Doug, not me. Obviously, he's written to me, Doug, and it's from Doug. I want to share with you our experience in 2007 when the Lord spoke to both Sally and I a number of times about leaving where we were living and going in faith to somewhere we had for us. We had moved in 2000 from the countryside into a town, clearing our mortgage and buying for $135K. In 2004, our youngest son was getting married to a girl with 2 boys. They needed help with buying, so we mortgaged and lent them $40K. As time went on, we found it more difficult to pay the mortgage, but had thought we should move in 2009 when the loan came up for renewal. That was when the Lord stepped in. He knew the credit crunch was coming, and not wanting to move into a flat, we are in our late 70s, we found a Park mobile home where he could live with our modest income but clear the mortgage. Not wanting to bore you, Doug? You're not boring me. But to give an example of how the Lord leads if we are obedient. And I think that just really underlines what you were saying. Here were people that were listening to what God was saying to them. I think sometimes we get so tied up, maybe or even on a personal level, with what I want, what I would like. Therefore, I go out and take another loan. I go out and do more here and more there. Whereas we're not listening when God is speaking clearly to us. Do you think this is a problem that Christians can get so tied up with the world system that they miss this out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we have as many Christians going broke in America, percentage-wise, as non-Christians. As a matter of fact, we have as many Christians getting divorced in America as non-Christians. So clearly we're listening to the wrong voices. I think that we need to be asking God and seeking His wisdom on our financial affairs. We need to be seeking His wisdom on our financial affairs. Now, He's given us some insights in Scripture. Scripture actually talks about debt and how destructive debt is. And oh, no, man. I mean, we've all gone out and leveraged ourselves to the eyeballs. After all, isn't this the way we in the UK and in America have made all our money through leverage and so forth, and now it's killing everybody. We actually violated some biblical principles that are found in Scripture. But we need to understand the times, and that's where programs like yours and newsletters like mine and programs like ours can help people. But we've got to seek the Lord. The Lord will guide us. He can give us direction. And I talk to people every week who have had direction, and God has told them, you're going in a bad direction. You're about to walk into a minefield. You're in a minefield. Back out. And so forth. And so I think we need to all begin to listen, because I don't believe this is the end of the financial problems. I believe